Israeli genocide in Gaza, pre-planned and well-coordinated. By Latif Farouk. Israel and its United States European partners knew about Hamas' attack on October 7, but allowed it to use as a pretext to commit genocide and ethnic cleanse Palestinians, annex Gaza with Israel to settle Jews to create Greater Israel. According to reports emerging from several sources, Egypt, Saudi and the United Arab Emirates were willing collaborators in this conspiracy against Palestinians and the region. An article in the website WSWS columnist Jean Shaul says Israel's entire narrative surrounding the events of October 7 has begun to collapse, with mounting evidence that Netanyahu's government and Israel's army and security services knew a military incursion was about to happen, and that once it did take place, large numbers of Israeli casualties resulted from a massive military operation carried out by the Israel Defense Forces, IDF. These revelations have been largely ignored by the pro-Israel Western media, which has dutifully and endlessly repeated Israel's claims that Hamas fighters committed horrific atrocities which claimed 1,400 lives. The gunmen, it is said, deliberately targeted the Supernova Music Festival, killing hundreds of young people, and also slaughtered the residents of Kibbutzim. Israel has used the October 7 Al-Aqsa flood incursion to mount a genocidal assault on Gaza. The official narrative from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, repeated faithfully by his Western imperialist backers, is that Hamas carried out an unexpected and unprecedentedly barbaric assault and must now be wiped out at whatever cost. This turns truth on its head. As the World Socialist website has repeatedly warned, ever since his government took office at the end of 2022, Netanyahu has mounted provocation after provocation against the Palestinians aimed at inciting retaliation, as then occurred on October 7. Al-Aqsa flood provided the pretext for a pre-planned campaign of mass murder and ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians, beginning with Gaza and then moving on to the West Bank and including Israel's 2 million Arab citizens. Israel's genocidal campaign has already claimed more than 30,000 lives, mostly children, women, and the elderly. It has destroyed hospitals, schools, and apartment blocks, while Israel's refusal to allow food, fuel, electricity, and even water to enter Gaza made defenseless Palestinians face a terrible death from starvation, thirst, and disease. Many of the Israeli families of those killed, injured, or taken hostage on October 7, reflecting a widely held view that Netanyahu is responsible for the disaster and did nothing to prevent it, have called for an independent and international investigation, which the government has refused. They have demanded answers to two basic questions. The official line on October 7, endlessly repeated, is that Israel's infamous Mossad spy network had no inkling that such a large-scale attack, requiring months of planning, training, and coordination among several Palestinian groups, including Hamas and Islamic Jihad, as well as non-affiliated Palestinians, was in the offing. The secret American military intelligence base in Israel's Negev desert, just 20 miles from Gaza, Site 512, was likewise blindsided, it is claimed. The authorities have not explained how Israel's massive electronic border fence could have been breached with only rudimentary tools and without any sirens going off or army bases being alerted, with the result that the Middle East's most sophisticated army took hours to arrive at the scene in a country no bigger than the U.S. state of New Jersey. Netanyahu's lies were exposed with the publication by Haaretz of letters written in March and again in July by the head of the research division at Military Intelligence, personally warning Netanyahu that the socio-political crisis rocking the country was encouraging Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas to risk action against the country, even simultaneously. In March, Brigadier General Amit Sayar wrote, "We are seeing deliberation on whether to sit on the fence and let Israel continue to weaken itself, or to take initiative and worsen its situation." When Defense Minister Yoav Gallant drew attention to this, Netanyahu promptly sacked him, only reinstating him following massive protests. Just 2 days after the attack, an Egyptian intelligence official told the Associated Press that Cairo had repeatedly warned the Israeli authorities that something big was being planned from Gaza. He said, "We have warned them an explosion of the situation is coming, and very soon, and it would be big." But they underestimated such warnings. He added that Israeli officials had played down the threat from Gaza, instead focusing on the West Bank. Netanyahu has denied receiving any such warning, denouncing the story as fake news. Israel's own soldiers also reportedly raised the alarm. But they were ignored and threatened. Israeli authorities knew about a planned attack and allowed it to happen. Put more bluntly, they wanted an atrocity and so stood down their defense and rescue services. Furthermore, the Biden administration's full-throated support for Israel, including its deployment of warships to the region the very next day, indicates that October 7 was seized on by U.S. military and intelligence officials to activate war plans prepared long in advance. In the last few days, the Israeli police report into the attack on the Supernova Music Festival, where the largest number of deaths occurred, 364 people, including 17 police officers, and where 40 people were taken hostage, found that contrary to Israeli government claims, the festival was not on Hamas's list of targets. Hamas could not have planned to attack it, as the festival organizers switched to the site in the western Negev desert only 2 days before, after the original location in southern Israel fell through. Palestinian fighters only found out about it by accident after the festival was then extended by a day at short notice. Most of the 4,400 attendees managed to escape before the attack took place. According to London-based Financial Times, FT, detailed report about a possible imminent attack ended up being dismissed as an imaginary scenario. Israeli intelligence received a detailed report on an impending assault by Hamas shortly before the Palestinian militant group's actual attack on October 7, the Financial Times reported, citing persons familiar with the matter. The warning, compiled by border sentries, many of them female soldiers, the FT was told to arrive through secure communication lines to the highest-ranking intelligence officer in the Southern Command a few weeks before the attack, sources said, without identifying the senior security official.